one of the things that concerns me is the number of people who are building a whole social media platform on what I would regard as slander. Um, Basically, whether it be a YouTube channel or Twitter or something, the whole ethos of it seems to be attacking and tearing down through not honest representation, some other person. And one of the things I have thought about is, what do you do about that? How do you? And so for me, with my sphere of influence, my mind goes to, well, how can I, at least for the people that I have a charge over, like my church, how can I help them not cultivate an appetite for slander? Because I actually believe there's a lot of people who are absorbing what is slanderous or just honestly just hateful. There's so much hate and so much meanness right now, and they're not even thinking of it in those terms, because sometimes slander can go under the label discernment or calling something out. And obviously not all criticism is slander, but that does exist. There are people who build a whole platform on that basis. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about this, of how can we help people cultivate a taste for what is wholesome and not feed that beast. How do we starve that? How do we cultivate a taste? How do we help Christians value protecting the reputation of other believers?
Hmm.
uh, I think about that all the time. I don't know that I've got it figured out, but I'd love to hear any thoughts you have.
I think it's 34 times in the New Testament that diabolos is mentioned, and of course that word from which you can hear the word devil. It's also a word that is translated slanderer, accuser, and so it should not fall lightly on us that the act of slandering is the furthest thing from a small sin. In fact, it is a demonic, satanic activity. And I I do want to avoid a mentality that says, well, any criticism is slander. I think we should be people who are deeply aware of our blind spots. I mean, of course, we don't know what the blind spots are by definition, but we're aware that we have blind spots. We are aware of our inadequacies. As Spurgeon said, if my if my critics really knew me, they would even only find more to criticize. I feel the same way. If the people who criticize me were to really be able to climb into my heart and see what's there, uh, they would only find more material. So I'm aware of that, and yet I think we all need to just engage social media in light of the way that Paul and Peter and the other writers of the New Testament are engaging very messed up and dysfunctional churches. I mean, it's amazing to me the way that Paul will commend the Corinthians for the evidences of grace that he sees in a church with that much, that many problems. The Thessalonians had a lot of problems of their own, and yet Paul says, "You are my joy and my crown." Words that you would almost think he would reserve for God himself. He's applying to this ordinary, flawed local church. I mean, slander is kind of the worst of it, but I think even upstream from slander is just an atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion.
Hmm.
Satan loves it when God's people forget about him and forget about their own mission and their own master, and they start focusing on one another in a culture, in an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. So he is going to get a foothold by doing everything he can to kind of breed uh, that mood. And we are only doing him a service. We are only making Satan's job easier when we play into that by assuming the worst about brothers and sisters in Christ. 1 Corinthians 13:7, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things, is not a call to be gullible, to be naive, to be a pushover and to just let people dominate you. but it's a call to view professing Christians as people with whom you are going to spend a long time after you die, namely forever. And to hold professing Christians to that profession, and not to give quarter to those who are claiming the name of Christ, but in all of their actions online, just undermining the work of people that are genuinely trying to advance the gospel. So my heart is burdened by what I think are some, and I'm not speaking of myself here, but what I think of are some good-hearted, gospel-minded men and women in ministries that are just the object of near constant accusation and I think slander from people who know better, and or from people who should know better. And I don't think I think the best response to that kind of thing is to ignore it. And you see that in Jesus's own interactions in the Gospels. Jesus didn't always engage bad faith dialogue partners. I mean, there were times where he's like, well, neither will I tell you, by what authority I'm doing these things. Jesus knew when someone was engaging him in good faith and when someone was not. And I think we would do well to take cues from him.